Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another podcast. Today, it's a solo episode, and we're going to focus merely on credit cards. And we're going to talk about credit cards, how to use them, how to misuse them. And we're specifically going to start right at the bottom when you get credit card offers in the mail like this. And I have four, and I want to show you guys also how easy it is to fall into the trap of credit cards and how they get you every single time. And as a bonus, I have a little scam letter sent to me in the mail, and it's so good that I almost fell for it, but knowing that I've already done this before, that was the only thing that I could find at the time. It's so good. And then I showed my brother, and as an accountant, he was able to pull together some details about it that was showing that it's fraudulent. But yeah, we'll save that for the end. This is a very different episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah, I want to bestow some wisdom on some of the things I've learned over the years about credit cards. And yeah, I think I'm just trying to provide value in a way I possibly can. And I think a lot of us misuse credit cards, and not saying I don't use it 100% perfectly, but there are a lot of things I think we could talk about today and learn that is very important to know about this. So, you know what? Let's just start with the credit card itself. You get mail. Let's just start with the mail. You get credit card offers in mail, and sometimes they're wrapped in very beautiful packaging like this, and it looks so good. You feel very important when you get it. It looks so good, and part of you are thinking, is this for me? They sent this for me? Yeah, they send it to everyone, guys. We aren't special, unfortunately. But here's an American Express Platinum credit card. And this one looks really like too good to be true. And the whole point of today's podcast is it always is too good to be true, but let's find out how. So, upon opening the letter, I am greeted with many perks. The first perk, it's earning 150,000 membership rewards points after you spend $8,000 in purchases within the first 6 months of opening the card. So that's about $1,500 in value, those 150,000 points. That sounds pretty good. Now, let's assume the best scenario where you already spend, let's say, $8,000 on average in 6 months, and that you're able to pay it back. Sounds really good because you get an extra $1,500 cash to save on that. And that sounds really good. That sounds like a free, a win-win. Here's the problem. You have to keep reading the terms, because this is what I want to show you guys. Like, these welcome bonuses are beautiful. They sound great, but you really got to read the terms to understand how they get you. And that's kind of what I want to illustrate today through the podcast, through literally walking through down the terms. And this podcast isn't for everyone, but I'm going to try to make it fun, interactive, and kind of go through it realistically with you guys. Hopefully it sheds some light. And the way they got me in this letter is not on this page where it has all the beautiful stuff. It's on the back where they have the terms, this stuff. I'm going to put it to the camera. All right, hopefully you guys are able to see that. On this credit card in particular, the APR, the annual percentage rate, is how much interest you pay in a year, is between 20.74 to 28.74, based on your creditworthiness and other factors determined at the time of account opening. So just off the bat, guys, that varies. That percentage varies. So 1%, 2% actually makes a big difference. We'll look at that later. But another thing is a plan fee. There's a plan fee on this credit card. It's an American Express Platinum. There's a plan fee, which means there's a fixed finance charge. So for purchases amounts in a pay over time balance, a monthly fee of up to 1.33% of each purchase amount moved into a plan based on the plan duration and the the APR that applies to the pay over time feature, whatever. All right. There's a monthly finance charge if you decide to use using that pay over time balance, like where they say, hey, this purchase that looks pretty big, let's say over $200, you can pay this over 6 months. This is where the fee comes in. So remember, let's say you're buying that thing for $200 and now you decided to pay for it over 6 months. And that works for you because, just how your paychecks come in, you're paying more than $200 at the end of the 6 months. And that's how they got you. They're getting their money back somehow. The whole goal of this is the $1,500 in value that you'll get, assuming you're going to spend that amount, is they're going to get that back. And we're going to show so many ways how they get you back. That's the first way. The second most egregious way, not a lot of companies do this, I think. I know notoriously American Express does this, but they have an annual membership fee. Okay, oh boy. All right. It's $695 a year to have this card open. I want to repeat that. $695 a year to have this card open. So you're telling me in less than 3 years, maybe 2.5 years, they will have got the money back in just having the account open. This is a annual membership fee. It's unavoidable. You have to pay it. So that's an L automatically. Listen, anytime you see an annual membership fee, guys, it has to scream to you an L. And I'm not talking to the guys that have really, that are spending $40,000 a day. I'm not talking about you guys. I'm sure you guys know what you're doing. I'm talking about the average Joe, the average guy that opens up a credit card account and they're deciding to enroll in one of these credit cards. Like, you got to be very careful. You have to read these terms. So within 2 years, a little over 2 years, you're already paying back the reward that you were getting that initially enticed you to open this credit card account. And so that's very worrying. That's not the only way they get you. They get you in the fact that the reward itself is getting you. And this is something I don't think a lot of people really understand. But they've done their math on this, and they know who's opening these type of credit card accounts. Spending $8,000 within 6 months is a lot of money. On average, spending that amount in New York is about half your rent for the month, roughly, depending on the type of bedroom, the type of house, whatever. It's a significant amount of money per month. Spending $8,000 in 6 months, assuming you can't pay it back. Most people can't, by the way. So let's talk about those people. You're going to be paying that ridiculous interest rate. And what's really scary is you're no longer have to pay $8,000, which is already a lot of money. You're going out of your way to spend this $8,000 to get the $1,500 reward. You're also paying interest on that money, and you are going to be paying that for many, many years. All right, guys. So I'm going to type in my phone the variables, the credit card balance, the interest rate, and we're going to try to use a interest. We're going to do various factors. We're going to do at the minimum interest payment of 20.74. So with an $8,000 credit card balance at 20% interest rate, roughly, paying $200 a month, it will take 5 years and 9 months to pay it off, and you will pay $5,719 in interest. So it's not $8,000 that you're paying. You're paying $8,000 plus $5,700 at the end of the almost 6-year mark. And that's just one credit card. Most people have more than one. So it's very scary. That's paying $200. Now, you might pay interest plus 1% of balance. Okay, that'll take you 4 years and 11 months. Let's say 2% of the balance, which is $160 per month, which is maybe more affordable. It'll take you 9 years and 9 months to pay that off. The total for that would be $10,000. It would be $10,640 in interest plus $8,000, which makes it about $19,000. 3 times the amount that you purchased in those 6 months. It's extremely scary. Remember, that's almost 10 years it would take you to pay off. Now let's do, so 2%, Okay. If you wanted to pay it off, say your minimum payment is $138 per month. Credit card companies are allowed to charge you a minimum payment. Usually it's really low. This is the really scary thing. Extremely scary. I want you guys to understand this. Remember how much $160 a month was? If we dropped that to $138 per month, it would take 40 years to pay that off. One more time. $160 a month would take 9 years and 9 months, and you'll pay $10,640 in interest. If we pay $138.30, which is literally $22 roughly difference less per month, just because of how interest rates work, it would take 40 years to pay off that $8,000 balance, and it would cost you $58,000 in interest. That's what they don't tell you. That's exactly what they don't tell you about these credit cards. It's when you pay the minimum payment, which most people do, it would take that long to pay it off, and it would cost $58,000 in interest. So, okay, I'm going to do a credit card. This is getting interesting. All right. Now, those numbers sound crazy, and a lot of you are probably really alarmed. Let's just talk about it for a couple of minutes. The credit card companies know this, right? They know this. They have studied this. This is all legal, what they're doing. They know that people in certain income classes are unlikely to pay it off completely. And this is why the interest payments are designed this way, so that they collect as much interest as possible, so that they recollect as much as possible within a certain term. The term is how many months that you are paying for that credit card until, let's say, you file for bankruptcy or you stop making your payments. They know those numbers. They have the data. And their goal is to make as much money back as possible. And you become a monthly payment to them. Once they lend you money that you use to purchase all those things, you are now a slave to the credit card company. You are making these payments until however long, right? Depending on how much. Now, these minimum payments are designed to take an extremely long time, usually more than a 30-year mortgage. And depending on the balance and the interest rate, it may take an extremely large amount of time, finite, but a large amount of time to pay it off. Now, let's be honest. Most people do not pay that credit card for 40 years. We know that. What they're going to do is after a certain term, they will terminate that credit card or they'll stop making payments. That's typically what happens. But the credit card company won, right? They won already. They got most of their money back in interest. They have some debt and they write that off on their balance sheets. And so this is just one credit card, right? This was one of the most egregious examples. If you look also really closely, they send you these terms. Now, what I really hope to get out of you guys, if possible, is if you're not sure about some of the things that I just talked about, I want you to spend some time whenever you get these credit cards in the mail. I think this is a really good use of your time. Do this a couple times. You don't need to do it more than that. But go through the entirety of the credit card offer. Highlight things that are ways that the credit card company gets you. And you're going to be really quick to understand how they make money off of you. And this helps train your brain to identify these types of things. And also there's a lot of information on it. So if you don't understand certain definitions, they will actually outline that in their terms and conditions. They'll also explain to you how the points work, how you can use it, under which terms that you can't. They also have notices for laws, Anyways, it's contained in here, right? It's contained in here. It's a long sheet. All right. This is the terms. This is called fine print, and everything's in here that you need to know everything. Let's look at this one. This is a $200 one-time cash bonus. All right. It looks really good. And also 0% intro APR until February 2026. Let's do the math. That's 16 months. 16 months interest free. Hey, if I plan to pay whatever balance I'll have in 16 months, sounds pretty good. Wrong. All right. So let's take a look at the offer. Let's see what we got. So here it is. Here's our offer. So we're going to get 0% intro APR on until February 2026 with 19.74 interest rate to 29.74. This is a much larger range. The minimum, it's a 1% difference between American Express on the minimum side, but it's almost all the way to the maximum possible APR, which is 29.74 in this case, but 29.99 is the absolute max. So this one sounds pretty good. Within 3 months, if you spend $500, you get $200 cash back. Sounds pretty good. No annual fee on this. You get 1.5% cash back and 0% intro APR, for that long. That's where they got me. The 0% APR is where they get you. Hear me out. Again, they've done studies on this. They have the data. I'm going to make back the $200 within the first 3 months. Easy, no problem. I'm winning in the short term. I'm going to be incentivized to use this credit card until February 2026 because I'm not paying any interest. I have no fees associated with this credit card. It's about what happens after. After February 2026, what's my balance? And at that moment, whatever my balance is, assuming it's not zero, I'm going to immediately start paying interest on. And if you saw with an $8,000 balance, making minimum payments, whatever you're doing, because you're only incentivized to pay a minimum payment, the minimum amount, so you have more borrowing power depending on your limit, depending on your credit card limit. This is just insane. Like, they get you in a very subtle way here because you're incentivized to pay. You're incentivized to spend money on this credit card, whatever amount that might be, up until February 2026. And then maybe you'll start changing your habits. But the problem is, if you had 16 months, let's say, from the time of recording this, up until then, to pay off this credit card, you're likely to have a balance. And that's where the interest will accrue. And they have a much larger range of interest. And we already know with interest in these percentages, the amount you'll owe back is wild and it's out of control. And they'll make back the 200 easy. That's how they got you, because it's so easy to make $200, but they're going to get you by you spending thousands in interest. Guys, this is not to mention the fact that you use a credit card and swipe it on anything, the merchant pays a fee for that transaction. So let's say I swipe my card and spend $100. The merchant typically pays a percentage, let's say 3% on that. So they never get the full $100. They get whatever the purchase is minus that percentage amount. So they might get $97. And so credit card companies are not just fighting for you to pay interest. That's not their only way of making money. They make money simply by using the credit card. They also make money by checking out your purchasing habits. Where are you swiping this card the most? Where are you making the most swipes? Who are you likely to make a big purchase with? And they sell this information to other credit card companies that send you these sheets of paper. All right, guys. So that was pretty detailed. So for the most part, this Capital One card, if you're extremely careful, it can be good. You could take advantage of those 14 months to accumulate and use good debt, but most people should not do that. This is purely educational. But in my opinion, I wouldn't do something like that because, I know that they're going to get me in the long run. 16 months is a long time. A lot of things can happen in 16 months. And they're just banking on the fact that you're going to make a couple purchases you can't afford, most purchases you can't afford, and you're going to be stuck with a nice interest payment that they'll be collecting until you claim bankruptcy or stop making payments. And at that point, your credit is going to be destroyed and it's going to be very difficult to buy a house. However, you can buy a house with bad credit if you pay for it in cash, right? But most people don't have that luxury because most people are not financially educated on money. And so a lot, Robert Kiyosaki says, you get stuck in the rat race. And this is exactly what that is. At the credit card level is where you buy a lot of things you can't afford. Most people buy things that they can't afford because they have a revolving credit. Revolving credit is a bad thing. It's not a good thing because that means you're always in debt. You're always paying back something. And it's something that I want to kind of illustrate as something we should be stay away from at all costs. Because if I know one thing, bad debt is scary. This type of debt where you gain nothing in value, right? These are all expenses. They're not, whatever you're buying isn't making you money. You're buying a new purse, you're buying a computer, you're buying a chair, you're buying anything here. These are things that don't make you money, right? They're expenses. You gotta be very careful with how you spend your money. Now, I have another credit card offer, but I think we beat the horse to death on this, right? The last thing I want to talk about is this insane, absolutely insane letter I got from, it seems to be the IRS, but I'll show you. I've highlighted things on this form. I'll show a picture here on screen. But I want to show you guys. So there's something, if you open a company, if you've opened a company recently, or I think it's after 2023, you're required to fill out yearly a mandatory beneficial ownership document. And this is presumes to be that document. I'm going to show it really quick here. All right, so that's what it looks like. And what I have highlighted on this page are things that are red flags. And my brother helped me identify these. I was not able to find these. But if you look really closely, the respond by, the date is cut off. Now, if you get a form from the IRS, there's never mistakes like this. They don't have mistakes like this. So that's a red flag. The word mandatory there is bad because the name of the form doesn't contain the word mandatory. That's something you wouldn't be able to pick up, if you haven't filled out this form or whatever. The form numbers don't match. So on the IRS forms, top left, they have a form number, and usually on the bottom somewhere they'll have the form. If you look closely on the top, it's 5102 is the form number, and on the bottom, it's 4022. There's different forms. That's how you know it's been forged. And it's not from the IRS, it's from the Annual Records Service. Now, the crazy thing is that they've sent this on behalf of my company. They have all this information on here that, they're only asking for $119, which is typical. There's never like $120. It's always ends with a 9. So they have that on point. The form itself looks really IRS-like. And they're simply asking for a couple of things, couple of fields of information. But what they're really after is your EIN. This whole form, disguised as a real legitimate form that you need to sign as a corporation every single year, is after one thing, and it's your EIN. And if they get this, they're able to open up bank accounts, open up many different things under your business. And if you have a large business, it might go unnoticed, And so this is really scary, submitting something like this. And yeah, I when I first saw this, I was about to fill it out. And then I saw that it's from the Annual Record Service. And that's the only thing that caught me as a red flag. But I asked my brother before, and I was ready to do this. And the other thing that prevented me from actually filling this out and sending money to this fake company is the fact that I already did this. If I had not done this already and they happened to get me before I actually did this, I would have been in deep shit, just to say the least, right? $119 just thrown out like that, that's very discouraging. So yeah, that's incredible. I wanted to share that with you guys because I've never seen a form disguising as an IRS sent to my business before. This is a new business, and I am absolutely shocked just how it's pretty scary how good this is, and it could definitely fool some people. So yeah, guys, my suggestion to you is if you are not sure about the form, go online, look it up, or use ChatGPT and ask. It's crazy that I'm even saying that, right? Like, ChatGPT will absolutely help you figure out if it's fraud or not. That's the world we live in. You can use AI to determine that kind of stuff. And to kind of circle it all back to AI. AI was definitely used in creating this. I could tell you that right now. The wording on this is extremely similar to IRS, and all they got to do is say a couple things and ChatGPT will start spitting out this information. AI can be used for good and it can also be used for ill. And this is one example of many of how it can be used for ill. And it is very scary. I mean, like I've said, I don't know what to say other than I am absolutely mind blown that I received that physically to my address. Like they have a physical location to accept the checks for payment. And it's just wild, mind blowing. But anyways, guys, this is a shorter episode. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think about this episode. I'm trying to provide value in a very tangible way. Literally opening up credit card offers, reading it, understanding it, doing some math so we understand how the numbers really mean. Because at the end of the day, it's all about how much you're paying back the credit card company, how much value you get. So sometimes it's worth it, right? And most of the time it's not. But I really wanted to illustrate that kind of doom and gloom style because it really is for most people. Like, you open up a credit card like that and, you're stuck into 30-year payments. It's really scary if you don't know what you're doing. And so hopefully this podcast illustrated a little bit of what not to do, right? And that's kind of the goal today. I hope you guys enjoyed. And it's really fun to do a podcast like this. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.